In 20 years, this might not exist. Winters in the Midwest are getting warmer and shorter. This has been documented over the last several decades, which means a lot of the activities that people do in the Midwest on ice, like ice fishing and ice boating, ice racing, might be a way of life that's disappearing. I started my project on thin ice several years ago, about 4 winters ago, as initially at first just documenting something different, documenting something in the winter, which was a time that I usually didn't do a whole lot of photography, but I wanted to get out and still make some photographs. And so I started by photographing ice fishermen at a local lake, and it really hooked me and got me thinking about what other activities that people do on the ice, which I felt like was an area that people haven't really explored very much in terms of photography. Eventually, I turned these pictures or these snapshots into something that I was just doing for fun, just to hone my skills in photography, into a project. And I feel like a lot of our projects can start this way. We can start by just making some images or pictures of things that catch our interest. But I think that moving into project-based work has a lot of value. And there are a few things that projects have done for me. One is help me to reduce some of that overwhelm or anxiety around photography, where I feel like I don't necessarily have a direction or I'm overwhelmed. I don't feel like I'm making good work. When I have something that's focused, like a project, it has helped me move on from thinking about, what cool picture can I take today, to what else does my story need to be more complete and to tell more of that narrative. And so every winter I have had that mindset of what else does my story need. In some ways, this type of thinking is good and bad. It's good in that it helps me stay motivated into working towards a project and building it out more. In some ways, I feel like it could be bad because I never really feel like my story in my project is complete. And I don't know that I'll ever feel that way. And so I feel like every winter I go through a phase where I'm like, it's really cold. I don't want to go photograph in the cold, but my project needs this. It needs this specific thing that people are doing on the ice. So this year, there were a few things that I felt like my project on thin ice needed to be more complete. And this is something that I've been thinking about quite a bit. This winter has been unusually warm. This is the winter of 2026 right now. And we have had a very mild winter, and this is something that I feel like makes me have a greater sense of urgency with this particular project, because I do feel like this way of life and the types of activities that people do on the ice is fleeting, and it might not be around forever, or at least it will be affected in some way. So this winter I had a few different things on my list of things that I wanted to photograph. One was photographing kites out on the ice. This is a pretty unique type of event that happens in the Midwest, where once the lakes are frozen over, you can get out on the ice. Some of these are probably 30 or 40 feet long or wide in some cases, and so they're very, very large. And so this was something that I really wanted to photograph. I found a really small event in Iowa and was able to do that. I was planning to do one more event. It was actually going to be this weekend, but it was canceled because of unsafe ice conditions, because it's been so warm that the ice is just not thick enough or safe enough for people to be out on. I'm glad that I was able to photograph at least some of this in the Midwest this winter. But again, I feel like these windows of opportunity are shrinking, and a lot of these events, it's kind of 50-50 whether they're going to take place or not. And then on this trip, I also went further north into Minnesota and was able to photograph some more ice races, which are things that I've been wanting to fill out in my portfolio. So I photographed a car race, and these are heavily modified cars with spikes on their tires to give them additional traction. And when I'm out on the ice watching these cars, I'm impressed, one, by their driving skills, but two, how fast they're able to go on the ice. Another type of ice racing event that I wanted to photograph was motorcycles and four-wheelers out on the ice. This is another twist on that idea, just building out more of that body of work. Being there in person, I was shocked to see just how fast they go. So much faster than the cars, which I would have thought that the cars would have been able to be faster, but was able to photograph the pit area and the people getting their equipment ready for racing, but then of course also get out onto the lake and photograph the racers themselves out on the course. Whenever I'm out traveling to events like this, I'm always looking around locally as well for anything else that I could potentially photograph that I might be able to add. And as I was finishing up the day photographing the ice races, I learned that there were also a pond hockey tournament just a couple lakes over. And so I made my way over there as well to get some photographs of people out on the frozen lake playing pond hockey. One thing that I really enjoy about being out on the ice and with some of these sports and activities is that there is a lot of movement. And so I like to try to capture that movement and that feeling of speed. And so I'm always trying to use a slower shutter speed to better document that. I feel like these types of images add to the body of work that I'm creating. I don't feel like every single picture needs to be classically perfect. I feel like some of that motion, I think, add character and a dynamic side to my work. One day I feel like a lot of these types of activities and sports that are done on the ice here in the Midwestern United States might not exist, or might not exist the same way that they do today. And so being committed to a long-term project like this, I feel like potentially has value. And I feel like that's part of my motivation with this project, is developing not just good images, but something that tells a story and a narrative, or that could in the future. As you're trying to think of projects to do, I think it can be helpful to ask a few questions. One is to ask yourself, what around me or what in my world or circle is disappearing? What is changing? And also, what do you care about? I think that last question is really important, because it has to be something that we identify with as a photographer, as a person, to be able to tell a story and work on a project and stay motivated to do that consistently over time. That's one thing that's been hard for me. I feel like every winter when I get out and photograph, one, I'm not the biggest fan of the cold. It's painful, and I feel like I'm kind of a wimp when it comes to the cold. And so every year I tell myself I might be done with this project. It's really cold. I don't want to have to keep doing this. But because this project is something that I care about personally, this has been easier for me to stay motivated every year, even when it's hard to be out in those types of conditions or photographing that same subject, or when you start to feel maybe a little bit bored. Having something that's important to you and that you can work on consistently every year can be something that can help you feel like you need to keep working on it. And right now I do feel like I need to keep working on this project. I'm not done yet. I still have things that I want to photograph, and I feel like there are holes in my work where I still need to fill those out. And so this is something that I plan to continue to work on. And, this is a project that I don't know when I will feel or consider it done. I'm not sure what that future looks like, but I know that every winter, at least for the foreseeable future, I still have things that I feel like I need to document as part of this to build out a complete and cohesive story and project. So if you aren't working on a project now, I encourage you to think about how you can possibly do that. Look at some images that you've created or some pictures that you've made recently and think through, is this something that I care about? Is this something that could potentially be changing in the future? Is this something that I would like to document? If so, maybe think about how you could potentially turn that into a project. It doesn't have to be a long-term project like this project that I'm working on myself. It could be a project that you could complete, in just a few weeks or a few months or over the course of one season. And that's great because I think it moves beyond just making a couple of pictures to moving towards creating a body of work and creating a visual style for yourself and the ability to tell a narrative and a story with the work that you're making. If you found this video helpful in any way, please like it and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be working on several projects over the next few years, including this one, but this project on thin ice really leaves me with just one time of the year when I can really work on it, which is during the winter, which leaves me a lot of the year feeling a little lost that I don't have other projects or things to be working on. So this year I'm hoping to change that. So I'd love to have you follow me along in that journey. If you're starting a project or working on one, I'd love to see your work. And so I hope that you would consider sharing that in the comments below or with me on some of my social channels that are linked in the video description. I'll see you on the next one.